Okay, all right. Well, good evening, everyone. More people will be filtering in, but you've reached a Socialite production, Facebook Live with Mrs. Saya Sio. I will go into a more formal introduction as we go through, but thank you guys for joining yet again, those who are reoccurring and those who are new. Thank you for joining the platform to hear what's going to be a really, really, really good conversation. I am so excited about this. So excited about this. This has been a long time coming and it's here. So before we get into just the order of how things are going to flow, I always like to open up in a quick prayer. So if you guys can close your eyes and bow your heads. Father God, even now, I just thank you for this evening. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for this platform. I thank you for all of those who are interested in the platform and the conversation, not, for the sake of having viewers, but for the sake of helping to change mindsets and perspectives for storytelling. And God, as we communicate on this evening, my prayer is that everyone will hear you and see you through what we are saying, Lord God. And, just give confirmation where confirmation is needed and peace where peace is needed. Cover us on this evening. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All righty. And so everyone out there, you're going to probably see me looking down throughout the conversation. And that's just me trying to monitor the chat and kind of just do kind of a dual role. So I'm not falling asleep. I'm just looking down to monitor. But again, like I said, for those who are already on and those who are just joining, welcome to a Socialite production. My name is Johnette Cape, and I am your host for this evening. Just a quick overview for those who may not be familiar with the Socialite production before we get into it. Socialite production is a business and it's also a platform. And our goal is to tell stories, to share stories, a wide variety of stories. Our mission is connecting the world through faith, culture, and entertainment. And like I said, we do that in a variety of ways. Tonight, we are storytelling and connecting through faith and culture, I guess you can say, and entertainment, all the above. Tonight's topic is 10 years of purpose, vision, and identity. And our topic, it comes from, Doe Memorial Foundation is who we have featured, right? Saya Sio is the founder, is the visionary. And 10 years ago, God gave her the vision to start this foundation. And, with this foundation, purpose has been fulfilled in so many ways for so many people. And one thing that's special about this moment and next week is 10 years of this foundation has been in existence. And so we're celebrating 10 years of purpose, vision, and identity, and purpose, and purpose, and purpose. And I'm always talking about purpose because it matters and it's key in how we are to move through this life. And so much has transpired over the last 10 years. And with that, so much has transpired not only in the lives of those who have benefited and who have worked with the foundation, but in the life of Saya Sio. Like, imagine God telling you to take on a big task. And I'm not going to go into details because she's going to cover that, but just imagine God telling you to establish a school on another continent. And you're a full-time mom and a leader at work and in school. Like, what? So we thank God for Saya being obedient to the call, and thank God for her husband and all those who stood alongside with her for these past 10 years for this mission. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. I'm going to do like an introduction, but it's going to be more of a conversation, right? Get to know Saya a little bit, and then we'll get more into the details of the topic of the conversation. So Mrs. Saya Sio, are you ready?
I am.
You are? Okay. You got all the jitters. You know how I like to do. Shake it out. Let's get this going. So let's first start off by, of course, I said your name, but just let everyone know, introduce yourself, your name, tell them where you're from and where you currently reside.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you for this opportunity to have a good conversation with you this evening. I know it's going to be really authentic because
Yeah.
dealing with Jeanette, you know, when there's nothing less than being very. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Saya Sio. I am a resident of Charlotte. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa. I was born and raised in Buchanan, Grand County. And I'm so honored to be on the platform tonight just to share some of our amazing joining to the Untitled Memorial Foundation story. We're talking 10 years tonight, so we have to talk about all the good, the bad, and everything that has happened and how God has shaped the purpose.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. And so you said that you were born in Liberia. How long have you been in the States, resided in the States?
So I have been in, I always try to remember that you're my first son, Francis, because by the time I came to the US 6 months, I was already expecting my first child. So he's 22 years old. So I can say I've been here for a little over 22 years.
That's a long time. And so with all of my conversations, whenever I'm interviewing Liberians or Africans, I like to talk about the Coming to America experience, right? Like I love Coming to America, but it's a stupid movie, but it's funny, but it's fiction. So I like to talk about the real Coming to America experience. So if you would briefly kind of just touch on what your experience was, like what were your expectations prior to coming to America, and then what was the reality?
So I'm laughing because
I know.
Coming from the Western world, right? Everybody expects that money grows on tree. America is almost like heaven. Not having opportunity to see some of the infrastructure in Liberia. So when I came to the US, there are three major things that happened, and I always share that with my team at work because I feel like it's important for people to really understand some of your first experience. It's culture, it's shifting, it's transitional. So we all learn through different opportunities. So I get to the airport in the US, my first time really seeing a escalator. So I'm thinking, okay, do I go backwards? Do I go forward? How does it work? And before then, I found myself on the escalator, down on the floor, sliding all the way down. And that did not even stop there, right? So I'm still trying to figure out all this technology and all of that. I go to the grocery store with my brother-in-law, my oldest husband. And I'm thinking the sliding door, right, is managed by somebody manually. So I'm thinking I will go in and out person who work for their money. And he stands there and look at me going in and out over 5 times and finally said, "Coming to America, this is automatic." I started laughing. I could not stop laughing because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe. I'm thinking I'm here trying to make somebody work for their money, but this is automatic and I'm just going back and forth, back and forth.
On the door.
The last one that I really like to share was my first experience when I saw snow. So I'm in Salisbury, North Carolina, Catawba College on campus. And then I had my first beautiful experience. And I'm out there looking at snow and I'm thinking, wow, ice is falling from heaven. God is speaking in many ways. So those moments are really, 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 really a cultural change and shift to understand the different season, the different technology, and different things that people have to deal with. I mean, some of these things we take it for granted, but there are a lot of things you deal with when you are transitioning from another continent to another.
Yeah. But
And
it's,
I'm proud of that. I mean, because I had not seen an escalator, I have not
well,
seen it slide door.
well, what's funny is, while, I mean, you have all the reason, excuse to have had that experience, right? There's people that right here in America still haven't mastered the escalator. It's intimidating, especially like if you're going down. So it's funny, but yeah, I can definitely understand why you would have had that experience. I just wish someone was there to have recorded it. Oh, that would have been great blackmail. So, okay, so you talked about your family, and of course, what we call him Baby Francis. I know he probably doesn't like that name, but you know, when you came to the States, you were pregnant with him. But kind of talk about your family a little bit. Introduce the audience to your family, although they cannot see them.
So I am very blessed to have a beautiful family. I am married to Saya Sio, my husband of 23 years, but we've been together almost 30 years from high school.
Mm-hmm.
We were friends before we got married, and he's my business partner, kingdom builder. We do a lot of kingdom work together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also, from a strategy perspective, do a lot of execution. He is very, very strategic when it comes to executing. So I love partnering with him in a lot of different areas of my life. We were blessed with 3 beautiful kids. Francis the third, I call him Baby Francis. He's 22 years old now. He is aspiring to play professional ball. He's at St. Leo University in Florida, working on his master's, just graduated with his undergraduate degree, and now he's working on his master's while playing basketball for the St. Leo University. Then we have our middle daughter, our only daughter, Miss Francia Faith, who we just transitioned to college. She's aspiring to be a lawyer. She's at Hampton University in Virginia. And then you can tell by now, we're beginning to be an empty nester, right? So we have just Emmanuel, our last son, Emmanuel, who I call him my psalmist, because he's blessed with a beautiful voice. He loves to sing. So Emmanuel now is the only person at home with Francis and I. We're very close family, love to travel. So we do a lot of traveling. The kids are really connected. Anything that happens to one person, they're really concerned about it. They're very athletic. I said Francia also plays, she runs track. Francis plays basketball. And I've been really blessed. If I talk about one of my major accomplishments, I would say my family. God has been very good to me and my family, and have blessed me with beautiful kids, and I have a wonderful husband.
Yes, that definitely is a blessing. So let's talk a little bit about you, right? So, you know, people say, introduce yourself. Who are you? And you already know the spiel, so I don't have to explain. But let's talk a little bit about who Saya is. Not what Saya does, but who is Mrs. Saya Sio? How would you describe her?
I would say the first thing is I am a kingdom builder.
That's good.
I say I'm a kingdom builder because I love to support the ministry. I have tons of churches and pastors that I'm connected with. I believe how much is given, much is expected. So I do a lot of seed sowing and support for pastors and ministry. We recently completed a church in Liberia. It brings me a different kind of joy to see the kingdom of God grow.
Yeah.
I'm also a visionary. I'm constantly looking for the new strategy. So in my family, I'm always coming up with what's next, what are the new strategy? And Francis being my partner, he's always there from an execution perspective. So this is how, and it's amazing that we are going to talk about vision and purpose. So the strategy comes up, but you need to have a vision, the plan forward, how to execute. Yeah. So from a visionary perspective, my brain is constantly working. When you think about it, I have to get to a point where I have to decide, when do I stop? Because I'm constantly looking for a new idea. Yeah. I'm a prayer warrior. I love to pray. I'm constantly talking to my Father. I do believe to have a relationship with anybody, including God, you have to have a conversation.
Mhm.
There has to be some intimacy. And this is the means by which I become intimate with God, by talking to him and hearing what's next. What do you expect of me?
Yeah.
I'm also a wife. I share that I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm from a family of 9, and I'm the last.
Wow.
They call me I act like I am the mom or the
Yeah.
leader. Um, and also I am I'm a supporter.
Mhm.
I love to see people succeed. So whatever it takes, I'm always there to provide. It may be prayers, it may be financial, it may be advice, but I love to see people succeed in whatever they want to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to add a little bit to that because she missed some things, right? So if you know Saya, if you truly know her, I will describe her as a woman of strength, a woman of class, a woman of elegance, a woman of faith, as she already alluded to. And what y'all can't, hopefully you can see it, but you have to see the full picture. She's everywhere she walks is a runway. Like she's just fashionable. Even when she's casual, she's fashionable. But that's a part of her brand, who she is. The presence, like when she goes into a room, she commands it, right? And not from an arrogant standpoint, but from an authoritative standpoint, meaning like she's there on mission for Christ. So when you talk about being a kingdom builder, that's her mindset as she walks forward. So she's always strategizing about what's next. So that's kind of like her disposition. She's a mentor. And so this foundation that we're going to speak about, I'm also on the board for it, right? And I just want to publicly thank her with everybody, all the millions of people watching around the world. No, seriously, publicly thank her for the opportunity. Publicly thank her for being obedient for this call, for this purpose, because not only is she providing the kids with the opportunity, she's providing us. I'm a first generation Liberian American, have not been on the continent to do work physically, but I've been doing it from here. I was started prior to Antidote, but Antidote really gave me an opportunity, a hands-on opportunity to thrive. Saya gave me the opportunity to kind of grab the wheel a little bit. We were kind of, oh, let's go this way, let's go this way. But, she really inspired me in so many ways and have grown me in so many ways. So I want to give her credit for that and publicly thank her for that.
And I also want to thank you, Jeanette. You talk about mentorship, right? Why it seemed as if I was mentoring you, you were also mentoring me indirectly to allow me to release control, because I had struggled for a long time with control over the foundation, especially when it comes to the annual fundraising gala, because Francis and I have been the core executor and strategist in the back end. So when you showed up with the support and trying to relay and plan last year gala, I had to believe in your ability. And it took a lot to believe in your ability, right? So there was some hard turning points, but at the end, I learned to trust more, to believe, to mentor without being control free. So thank you for not giving up on me.
This is about you, but okay, thank you, you're welcome. But I can only imagine, because I'm the same way. The foundation is a baby that you gave birth to, and now you're handing it over to this person. Yeah, you trust them or whatever, but you handing your whole baby over to be cared for. So I totally get it, because I am the same way, but I definitely wanted to give you that public recognition of just who you've been specifically to me, and add a little bit more descriptive points to you that the people may not be aware of. But so now we're going to go into this last piece and then get into the conversation. It's kind of a transitional point and also touches on what we're going to talk about. But now talk about what you do, like from an occupational standpoint with your career, and then move into the other part of your occupation with managing the foundation.
Are you interested in all the accolades behind the name? Or
if we have 2 hours to be here for you to name it, which we don't, so you can cut that short, but go ahead.
So from a professional standpoint, I lead a team of about 10 professionals at a financial company. And my goal is to develop a lot of strategy in terms of compliance and regulation. So I work a lot with lawyers across and senior leadership to ensure that our companies stay compliant with different regulations. I am a certified public accountant. I have not really practiced in the field of my certified public accountant for quite some time, but I've used that in terms of my personal and Doe Foundation, but not from a professional standpoint. I am a professional project manager because I lead a lot of projects on a small scale and a high scale. So programs have portfolios of projects, do a lot of directing. I'm a senior director at my job. I'm also a control expert. I design a lot of controls to ensure mitigating critical risk across my line of business. So I enjoy from a professional standpoint, building relationship, working with senior leaders and mentoring, because I do a lot of mentorship with my team, and forcing my peers and my team to really reach their full potential. So, because I'm constantly looking at stretch goals and stretch opportunities. And that's what I do. I just love to develop strategy and vision. So I'm constantly doing that. Sometimes I come across very hard. I'm a hard driver, but those are some of the things I'm still working on.
Hey, it's a part of who you are, and obviously is needed for what you do. But of course, there's adjustments here and there with all of our traits, right? But I think that's why you're so successful in what you do. So now let's talk about the other part of your occupation.
My baby, Doe.
Yes. Your fourth child, yes.
Yes, right. So it's family, it's the professional job.
Yeah.
Then Doe. So Doe Memorial Foundation is my baby, and I've carried this vision for 10 years. And it feels just like yesterday, because when purpose meets passion, it seems like a norm. So I've enjoyed really leading the Doe Memorial Foundation, a foundation that is so focused on empowering today's generation for a better tomorrow. We are catering to the needs of underprivileged women and children in Liberia, West Africa, by providing free primary Christian education. Now junior and high school. We're also providing women empowerment opportunities to hundreds of women that's changing their lives, basic healthcare services. And we're also working in our local community in Charlotte, providing community-based scholarship to graduating seniors. Yeah. Doe Foundation is my purpose. It's the reason why I was born to do what I'm doing now. So that's my baby. And I lead and direct strategy with excellent board, including my husband. We are co-founders of the foundation and just enjoy giving back.
Yes, indeed. And you missed the microfinancing program. I don't think I heard you mention that. Did you mention
it's
that?
all part of the women empowerment
initiative? Okay, got you.
So
I just want to
more in detail.
Yeah. I was like, oh, don't forget about that. That was big. Yeah, you're right. That is a part of the women empowerment. I'm trying to separate it out. But yeah, we're definitely going to get more into it. But yeah, so that's Saya Sio. If you're interested in learning more about her, follow Doe Facebook page and website, and you'll find out more. But so today, the conversation, the way I want it to go, is it's like a continuation to a conversation that I had, a Facebook Live that I did a couple of weeks ago on identity crisis. Right? Like sometimes people don't know who they are. Sometimes people don't know who they are, period, right? And so they're acting out into all other types of identities. And others, they know exactly who they are, but in different seasons and different callings, it might be a crisis like, okay, so you want me to do this? I can't do this because I'm only this, I'm only that. Not truly, fully knowing who you are for the assignment. But God trusts you because he knows that you're capable of being that person. And so with the title of this conversation is 10 years of purpose, vision, and identity. because while this is about the Annie T. Doe Memorial Foundation, I want to kind of tie it into Saya's story, right? Well, however she wants to bridge that together, because 10 years of your life doing something that you never thought you would do, you go through all kinds of emotions and questions. And so my first question for you is, well, kind of, I guess, tell the story in reference to you going back home 10 years ago with your family just for a regular family vacation. So you thought, but it was really like a mandate to start this school, to start this foundation. So kind of talk about that experience, right? Visiting your childhood home and a community. How was that when purpose was established, or I guess you could say born?
So it's amazing how God orchestrates plan and purpose, right?
Mhm.
But most times we are not obedient, or maybe we may be caught in our present situations.
Mhm.
So like 10 years ago, when Francis decided to take the family back to Liberia, what immediately came to my mind was how much it's gonna cost. So those are some of the things that derail our purpose, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm not even thinking about going back to Liberia or taking our kids to see our fathers, right? Because his concern was both fathers are really old and pretty soon they're all gonna maybe pass away. It's important for them to meet our kids. But I was like, no, the selfish part of me was like, this is about $20,000. Are you kidding me? Because it's $2,500 per person.
Wow.
At the time to go to Liberia, you're talking about 5 people, it's 10,000, and I gotta take money back. And he kept persuading us to go. He says, if you don't want to go, I'm gonna take my baby girl and leave you with the 2 boys, dad and the girls. And I'm like, oh no, you're not gonna take the girl, because I know when you get to Liberia, you're gonna be hanging out with your friends. I don't want my daughter just being out there by herself. So I finally decided to go. And Lord, and behold, that was the purpose that God was speaking to be in Liberia 10 years ago, because he knew that I needed to do this Annie T. Doe Foundation work. But that was the least thing on my mind. So we got to Liberia and I decided to visit Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. I took a little bit of clothes and I asked the community to gather together, right, to meet me. And when I got there, I still carry that beautiful scene in my mind and my spirit. There were so many children running around,
Yeah.
barefooted. So purpose speaks in future terms. I say this to say that the purpose God had, he was speaking in a future term, but I did not align at that point. But when I got there, it began to make sense. And I heard right there and then, you need to do something. And I'm like, okay, God, you can't be talking. It's like, and that's where the identity crisis come in, because right there and then I started thinking, oh no, I'm a mom. I'm a deaconess in my church right now. I have my professional job. There is no way I can do this, God. I wasn't even listening.
Yeah.
I immediately got into the reaction mode. And then God began to impress them in heaven. I felt like I got impregnated right at the scene. And it was so heavy. I could not stop thinking about it. That's what happens when purpose is birthed.
Mhm.
You cannot separate your emotions from it. No matter how far you try to run or how you try to rationalize it, if that's what God wants to happen, it will happen.
Yep.
And I found myself getting very passionate and wanting to change the story. And as I sat and looked at the kids running around, I saw doctors, lawyers, accountants. And God started to say, this is the reason why you were born and raised in this community. And it's time to pay it forward. It's time to be the beacon of hope to this community. But then the vision started to get blurred because I'm already thinking strategy. How is it going to work?
Mhm.
And I don't know who I'm talking to right now. You have to not get ahead of yourself. Purpose dies when you try to get ahead of yourself, when you try to strategize outside of God's plan.
Yep.
But I'm grateful that passion met the purpose at the time, because there was no way I could separate the two of them.
Yeah.
I began to cry. And I was so overwhelmed, I began to cry. But I knew that I had to do something. And God said, if it's not you, then who? If it's not you, if it's not now, then when?
Yep.
So that led to the foundation of the Untitled Foundation. Because of that, I left Buchanan impregnated that I had to do something. And obviously, strategy, vision came together, and we started to work on the formation of Doe Memorial Foundation.
Yeah. I think you kind of answered the question too, but I want to call out this quote because it was mentioned in the identity crisis conversation. I interviewed Wilma Parker with Kingdom Huddle, and she was also talking about purpose and identity and this, calling and all of that. But she said a quote, "Comfort can be an enemy to purpose." And you alluded to that, but I want you to tell, kind of break that apart. What does that statement mean to you, and how does it align to, what you've been, the purpose that you're operating in that you almost did not fulfill?
So I was comfortable. I was comfortable going to Liberia, just enjoying my family trip and coming back. I did not want a purpose out of that.
Yeah.
My intent was just a vacation. And then God started to shift my comfort zone. It became uncomfortable to hear that I need to build a school.
Yeah.
It became uncomfortable to hear that I needed to help women rebuild their lives. It became uncomfortable to hear that I needed to provide basic health strategy for these people. And I was like, no, because it was an uncomfortable zone. How am I going to do all of this? So she's right. You're comfortable in what you're used to doing. I was comfortable being a mom. I was comfortable being a professional accountant. I was comfortable helping church. I was comfortable being a deaconess, but I wasn't comfortable. I did not think about being a beacon of hope, building a school, going back and changing the lives of women and children. But I'm glad that I listened, because had I not done that, the destiny of thousands of those children will be in question.
Yeah.
Yes. So definitely comfort, because you're used to your familiar space. Purpose does not survive in a familiar territory. You have to step out in deep waters. And that's what God is saying now. He said, you're operating in shallow waters.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, God, okay, it's 10 years. You talked me out of my comfort, and now you're forcing me into another uncomfortable zone. But he says it's time to dig deeper.
Yeah.
You cannot continue to operate on shallow waters. And a lot of us are operating in shallow waters because we're comfortable. So our purpose are becoming so complicated because we're comfortable with what we're used to. And before this conversation, I've been studying the book of Judges, chapter 6 and 7. And God keep impressing in my spirit about Gideon. Don't know why, but he called Gideon and said, you are a mighty warrior. Gideon did not understand that, but God was speaking in the future term because he understood his ability. And Gideon still continued to question. He says, no, I'm from a family that has no repetition. We are the least. But then God continues to remind him again and said, go in my strength. And even after God reminded him to go in his strength, he still wanted evidence. And that's what comfort does. I want to be comfortable, God, before I start this vision. I want signs. I want you to be able to tell me that 1 + 1 is 2. But guess what? When it comes to purpose, 1 plus 1 could be 0. 2 plus 3 could be 1. God operates backwards.
Yeah.
So I don't know who I'm talking to now, but you have something that you have to do. You have a purpose. Everybody is created for a purpose. Everybody has work to do. God has created all of us because there is an alignment of work that he wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
The key here is, are we obedient? And obedience comes when we are in alignment, when we are not afraid of stepping in the deep waters.
Yes.
So that's what happened to me 10 years ago. I was afraid of leaving my comfort zone. It was uncomfortable to think about building a school in Africa. I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Who would, right? Yeah, I trust you, God, but okay, can you, because he don't like to give step A through Z. It's sometimes A through B and then B through whatever, but it's just a matter of trusting him. And real quick before I go on, you're speaking about comfort zone and God calling us out of the shallow waters into the deep waters. And I just got a vision of, when you're in the shallow waters, yeah, you can move around or whatever, but you really don't really go, like the waters really take you further when you're deeper. When it's shallow, it's kind of, it's slow. But when you go deep, you're able to sail, right? And some people are very, frustrated with their lives right now because they may feel like they're just kind of just in the same area. They're not really sailing and pushing forth, but you got to step out. You really have to step out. And you say you don't know who you're talking to. I think you're speaking to everybody because I think it's something God wants us all to do or to continue doing. But the problem is we don't have the answers or the official green light. He may have told us to go, but because we don't see the steps, then we're stagnant. So you're talking to a lot of people, including me.
And I think sometimes we're afraid to fail.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Failure is the best teacher, right?
Yeah.
Because when you fail, you learn from your mistakes and you become a better person. Mm-hmm. And I think is that inability to want to tap into a space that you haven't been.
Yeah.
So I say purpose allows you to tap in your own tap potential.
Yeah.
It is the unknown, to operate in the unknown.
Yeah.
But believing, that's where faith comes in, believing that God is the author and finisher of your faith. So if you believe and you align with his mindset, it's gonna work out. And also bring along the right support system. I think a lot of us struggle because we lack the right support.
Yeah.
You have purpose, but support.
Yep.
Stewardship. You may have purpose, but you need stewardship.
Yeah. Accountability.
A lot of us want to be purpose-minded, vision-driven, but not disciplined.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of discipline that comes with this work. As you can see now we're talking about gala and all of that. It takes a lot of sacrifice. Yeah. Purpose is not about you. Purpose is bigger than you. Purpose become about the community, about that child, about that individual that needs to be blessed from your purpose.
Yeah. Yep. Going a little bit into the vision part of it, of the conversation. And then we have a couple of questions that have come in, but I'm going to touch this part first and then bring those questions in. So like with Gideon, you spoke about in the Bible, God told him that he's a mighty warrior, but he didn't believe it because he didn't do anything to make that, that statement make sense. But when you talk about vision, you have to see it before you see it. And so that takes faith. That takes you believing in the Holy Spirit to work through you. So for you, with the vision, when God was just speaking in your ear, and you like, wait, what? How did you see it? And did you see everything that has taken place over this past 10 years when he spoke that, and as you were trying to get started with everything?
No, I did not. And I think that's where the Bible says, just make it plain, write the vision,
Yeah.
make it plain. And
Yeah.
at the fullness of time, the vision is going to speak.
Yeah.
So when God spoke about being the beacon of hope to my community in Liberia, I did not know the path forward.
Yeah.
But I believe that God had a path forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key.
Yep.
And once I started to align my mindset with God's mindset, I think the first thing is you have to pray about the vision.
Yeah.
So God, what it is that you're speaking? How can I move forward? You got to realize he holds the whole word in his hands, and he can realign and bring people along the way that you least expect. And there's been amazing support that God really aligned to be a blessing to this purpose, right? But you first have to believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here and thinking, God, what is the vision? So how do I go forward? Okay, now I'm uncomfortable. I'm supposed to build school. I'm supposed to do all this, but I need a path forward, right? And I started to rationalize it in my own human imagination based on, and it's very normal, right? Based on my intellectual ability, based on my educational experience, based on my family, based on my connection, I started to build the vision.
Yeah.
But God immediately corrected me because you cannot operate outside of God's plan. Mm-hmm. So in that process, he began to discipline me. It's not about the level of education you think you have. It's not about the connection that you have. You must first align with my vision. Yeah. And then the execution is going to be easier. Yep. So I think when you align, I believe when you align the vision with God's strategy, execution becomes easier. Yeah. So once that happened, God started to align resources and people along the way. But even with that, right, your human imagination kicks in and you begin to think, this is right, this is wrong, this is what needs to happen. And he is quick to correct you. There were people I believe should have been part of the vision. And God said, no, your purpose is not a conference call. Mm-hmm. I called you. Yeah. I did not call everybody. So the sooner you realize that not everybody is called to this vision and purpose, the better of your life will be. Yep. So you got to start to adjust your mindset. Again, that's where you come from an identity perspective. Yep. Everybody should be part of this. This is exciting. And I'm running around telling everybody, God says I should build a school and this and that. And God says, crazy. I'm looking at, why are you not excited about this? Hello, because God did not speak to me. And I started to create some animosity along the way. Why are you not excited about this? Why is this person not part of this? But he had to immediately teach me along the way that this is for you. This is your purpose. And there are people I have strategically aligned to be a blessing to this purpose. Not everybody's going to buy into your vision. Nope. And don't take it personal because everybody's not called. This is not a conference call. This is about you. And there will be people who will come along who are not authentic, who are not called. And that's where the spirit of discernment comes in. Absolutely. I realized at the beginning, it has not always been easy. I had some sleepless nights. Some days I questioned God, did you really call me to do this? And it's in that moment when distractions and adversity are at the highest peak. I remember this lady, I'm going to protect her identity, very renowned philanthropist, came to me and said, I can raise money for Doe Foundation if you turn over everything to me. It sounded really good because I was struggling with raising my family. I was struggling with raising money for the foundation. And her strategy seemed perfect. Mm-hmm. She says, I'm just going to give you $10,000 every year and you will have no face. whatsoever. You will be in the background and I will be the front end of this vision. Be careful not to sell your vision. And I'm going to thank God for my husband, because 2-3 weeks later, he recognized it and he told her, this is not possible.
Yeah.
But those are all those things that happen along the way when you're building and you're shipping and God's called you, because the enemy tries to make you to question, do you even have the ability to do this? Yes, you have the ability. If God calls you, yes, you have the ability. You just have to be patient, trust the process, believe the resources, and be authentic with the right stewardship. Because how much is given, much is expected. Yeah. My family is the first to contribute to Untitled Foundation every year. I do believe that's the first discipline. Time commitment. I am not going to ask Jeanette to be a part of Untitled Foundation if I cannot commit my time. Accountability. You have to be accountable for your vision. You have to be accountable to people who look up to you. When your life is vision driven, your life is no longer about you. What you do, what you say, how you show up becomes your full responsibility. Whatever you do influences the people that look up to you. So I'm very careful how I show up, what I do, because you have to jealously guide your vision.
You have to protect it too. Definitely protect it. And thank God you protected it from the lady who wanted to buy it. You know, all kind of opportunities. That's, I said, sometimes, you know, when you talk about temptation, the enemy knows that you're not going to go and rob a bank or do something crazy, right? So he'll present opportunities that looks like awesome opportunities. And if you're not in tune, you would have wished you would have robbed the bank, you know, over, you know, what you've agreed to or given into. So we're speaking about the identity part of it, right? And you pretty much told us that you were in an identity crisis when you were like, nah, I can't do this. I don't know how, I don't have the resources. But kind of talk about the crisis you went through as it relates to shaping your identity and who you are. So you had to go from being a mother, a wife, whatever your role was at work, to all of those things, plus a overseer for a whole foundation, of course, with the help of your husband and everyone. But just talk about your identity for 10 years, kind of how you had to shift. And I know that's broad, but kind of in an overview, kind of talk about that a little bit.
So I'll say it's an evolution and I'm still evolving.
Yeah.
At first, I was a control freak, even though my husband thinks I'm still a control freak. Every conversation. I said control freak because I want to know when, how, why, how's it going to work?
Yeah.
So when God first spoke to me 10 years ago, I'm trying to figure out, how is this going to work? How can I raise money? How am I going to be able to get resources to do this job? Who's going to help me? What is it going to take? God, I need it in plain English. And God doesn't speak in plain language every time.
Yeah.
So I struggle with accepting and executing.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was familiar with leading in certain areas, but this was a very new space. I'm not an individual who likes to ask a bag. And this was forcing me to lay down my pride, to stand before people and ask them to contribute to something that wasn't even benefiting me financially. I had to let down my pride. It was a very uncomfortable place. But then God began to shift my mindset that you are fortunate to have this opportunity to speak to people. There are many people out there who want to be a blessing, who love to give back. I choose you because I trust you, that you will be a good steward of whatever comes to you. So I had to get comfortable with that. That was my first identity crisis.
Yeah.
I'm losing control. I'm begging. I'm going to seem as if I'm a beggar. I had to deal with that. And the next thing was balancing, right? I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and now I have a new baby. How do I balance all of that?
Mm.
Some days my husband gets less love, my kids get less love. Foundation. It came a point that my foundation was getting the most love. Every night we pray as a family. The first thing will be Untitled Foundation. So it became very repetitive. My kids would say, "Oh Lord, pray for Untitled Foundation." Untitled Foundation. Pray for Untitled Foundation. But there was a struggle in balancing.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, you lose yourself in the process. And I think sometimes along the way, I may have lost myself, either becoming more one-sided, chasing after my passion, forgetting to be the full-time wife or the full-time mom. And all of those things create a lot of distractions. And before you know it, whatever you think is already working begins to shift.
Yeah.
So that balancing act is very important. But how do you balance? This is when you have to really be intentional about checking yourself and doing a pulse check every step along the way.
Yeah.
And asking for feedback. I was not a good person at receiving feedback.
Yeah.
I look at feedback as criticism because I've always strived for perfection. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, God taught me, nobody's perfect. You'll make a lot of mistakes. I struggle with letting people know my weakness. This joining have forced me to be vulnerable. It forced me to be vulnerable. Always wanted to have a perfect life. Always wanted to have a perfect family. Always wanted to have everything perfect. And God says, and so what? What if everything is not perfect? Who cares? You are perfect through my image and likeness. So in as much as I talk to God every day, I still struggle with imperfection because I want everything to be perfect. And God has been maturing me through the process. Stewardship. Through this process, He's strengthening my ability to be a better steward, being accountable for what He has trusted me with.
You know, we can go on, and you know how we have our conversations in this area because it's so much, it's just so much to tell, it's so much to reflect on. And even as you're talking, you know, one thing that my mom used to always say, and even I started to say it, you know, with the board meetings and stuff, it's definitely not about perfection, but it's about excellence. Just move forward. Even in the imperfection, do have the mindset of excellence. And that's how you have made it thus far. Like I know, like someone here asked, how did you get started, right? And I'm gonna let you answer that, but I'm just thinking about how it was, I think the microfinancing program, you know, because me, I'm about perfection too, right? Sometimes I do a little much, like Janet, that's great, but let's bring it down. Let's start somewhere. You were like, you just have to start. You just have to start and let it, when you say let it figure itself out, let God figure it out, but you start moving. So I'm kind of jumping a little bit, but that question was, how did you get started? Right. So after you've gone through the identity crisis and still in crisis, but you're moving forward, where did you start? Because right now we have a bunch of programs, right? Talk about the first initial step that you took to make this happen.
So when you think about having a foundation, we first started by doing the research. So I had to research how to get started, how to start a foundation. And I always will never forget Benjamin Sanvi. He was the first recipient of our Untitled Humanitarian Award. He had come to visit my husband and I that evening, and I'm excited talking about this. And Benjamin had his foundation at the time. So he was able to sit with my husband and I and talk about some of the basic steps to get started. So from our professional standpoint, we knew how to go about applying for a 501c3 status. So Francis he does tax. So Francis was able to research, and my brother also Towa in New York started to write about the objectives, the detail. So then God started lining resources. So we first started by getting our 501c3, because that's the first thing you have to do to solicit.
Mhm.
And then we had to write the vision. What is the objectives? Well, I knew the 3 objectives about women, children, and health, but then we had to write the objective really clear in terms of how do we begin. And then we started talking about the blueprint. So how do I build a school? And this is how God really lines up resources. So I'm researching on the internet, how do I build a school? I need an architect. And behold, I came across this man called Michael O'Brien. He's in Asheville, North Carolina now, but he was in Charlotte. And I went over and shared the vision with him, and Michael voluntarily designed the Untitled Elementary School. So he did the blueprint. The next thing I thought about, now, how do I raise money? So Ben Sanvi again talked to Francis and I about how to raise money. We started doing our first fundraising gala. Still remember August 2011, 75, the first 75 people believe in the vision. Your mama was there, and we launched the first and raised our first $10,000 and started construction in December of 2011 in Liberia. And we continued to raise money for the next 4 years and raised about almost $100,000 and completed the school by 2011, right after, but 2014, we completed the academy. And right after the Ebola crisis, we opened up to the first 75 students. It was a new day for the community. The first 75 students walked through the Untitled Elementary School. And then over the years, the program continues to expand. Enrollment increased by 400%. So we had about 300 students who were now getting ready to graduate from elementary school. So we had to then, another vision again, God said, you're too comfortable. Now I started to build a junior high school. And I'm like, okay, God, I thought I was just building an elementary school. So you see how God does, right? He builds one, he gives you the first test. And once you pass the test, he brings the second, the third. And then we talk about junior high school. And that was really quick. So Carmen on the board and her husband gave the first seed money, $30,000. And we started the junior high school. And this year, March, we went back to Liberia and did the ribbon cutting and officially opened the junior high school. So now we're thinking about from 370 to 500 students. So while we're thinking about that, we get funding again from another donor in Switzerland who gave us the first $30,000 and says, I've been following you for 2 years on social media. So it's important to tell your story. So as we were building, we were telling the stories on social media, and somebody followed the foundation for 2 years and gave the first $30,000 to invest in women. And that's when we started the sewing program, the free 6-month sewing program. Over 120 women have been blessed, getting training for 6 months. And after the graduation, start their own businesses. And then last year, we had the honoree of this year reach out to say, I want to invest in women. Gave us another $10,000 where we started the interest-free microfinancing loan for 66 women across Liberia. Each of those women receive $150 to start the small businesses, right? But the way we deliver the $150, it was a whole package of training where we really help these women recognize their significance and their identity. And then some basic financial education. And the stories are so amazing. I can't even begin to share what is happening, which is $150 from each of those women.
Yeah.
The lives are changing. And then obviously we work with local doctors to have our health awareness program. So the vision just continues to build. I think once you take the first step, the second, the third, it begins to happen. And I cannot even begin to tell you what I envision for the next 10 years. It's mind blowing. I'm so excited as I sit and look back 10 years. I'm like, God, this has got to be God. But again, it all started with obedience and support and hard work.
Just that initial, so that I know some things happen, and like one-offs, right? But then some things were simultaneously, you have to do it together. But the initial opening of the school, and of course, the initial raising of $10,000, right? That's big, right? But it's kind of like, well, it's still here on this side. How are we going to get it to the school? Like envisioning you literally building the school on another continent and the students walking through the door. What was that feeling? Like, can you even describe, or do you even remember the feeling that you and CO and the board at that time had, but those who were on the ground witnessing that? What did you think? Or what did you guys think? Or did you think anything?
It was a why moment for me. It was when I realized that God, so it's one of those things where you're in the execution. God says, do this, and you're in the execution, you're doing and don't even take a step back to realize the fruit. But when the doors open, I really realized that the vision was alive.
Yeah.
This is the reality. That somebody depended on this, that these kids were really waiting for this. This community have been waiting for years for this opportunity. It was fulfilling in that I could have been part of the process. It was the icing on the cake for my life.
Yeah.
I felt like I had accomplished a lot, but that was the icing on the cake. It was like, wow, God, you trusted me enough to do this? And that at that point, I began to believe that there was more to it. At first, it was more tactical.
Mm-hmm.
After the doors open, I began to realize that God, what you spoke a few years ago is really coming into reality.
I can see guys side-eyeing you like, told you. Or that's Janet, maybe. No, but that's just such a blessing. And of course, I've heard this story years after years after years, but it never gets old. Because when people think about the funding and what it takes to run a school, and you have a whole team that's over there, and it's not just the school with the kids, it's the women, it's the community, it's providing food, free education, where people may not realize that in Liberia, you have to pay to go to school, right? But you're providing all of that plus some for these children. And I'm saying you, but it's the foundation, right? But I'm talking to you, but the foundation provides that, and that's huge. When people may wonder where the money is going, for those who are not familiar with the foundation, if you follow Auntie Doe on social media or their website, and I'll give that information at the end, but you'll hear stories, testimonials, stories from donors, from board members, of course, from Mrs. Sio, from her kid. It's just a variety of consistency where you see where the money is going. You see the purpose that's coming out of this, and you see the progression of it. And so when you said that was the icing on the cake, like that ain't even, the cake's still baking. That ain't even the icing. That's not even the dough. So much more. And
when you also think about the 25 people that are employed at the school, employment opportunities, these people are able to take care of their families.
It's so much. It's so much. And I wish we had more time. Didn't even realize it was after 8:30. We could keep going on and on and on. But it's just so much. And it's such a blessing to be a part of it. And whatever way you're a part of it, whether you're on the board, whether you're a donor, whether you pray, whether you share, you're a part of purpose and a vision. So I'm gonna ask a couple of more questions and then we'll wrap up. But there was one question that came in. How do you stay motivated despite the challenges and the opposition? How do you just keep going?
I realized that my life has become bigger than me. Mm-hmm. When your life is bigger than you have no choice. This is no longer, I tell my husband every day, this is no longer about us. This is about kingdom building. This is about the lives. Carrying 370 kids in my body, in my mind every day. These kids depend on us. So when your life becomes bigger than you, you're forced to sacrifice. So I've gotten to a point where, regardless of what happens, it has not always been easy. I'm at the peak of stress in the season, especially when I'm planning for the gala. It's when I receive the most distractions. It can be from my household, outside. I am most distracted during the season because I realized at first I took it very personal, but now I begin to realize it's not about you. It's about those kids whose life depend on this. That's what all these distractions are about, because it's the next president for Liberia coming out of anywhere.
Absolutely.
Who's going to find the AIDS medicine? There's a next missionary. So somebody's trying to stop that purpose. Mm-hmm. So you have to remain focused. So when your mindset is bigger than you, your distraction becomes smaller. Not that it's small, it becomes smaller because you are thinking purpose, you're thinking community, you're thinking the word, you're thinking who depends on me. That's the mindset I have been able to survive through many distractions and up and down, because I believe I'm not doing this for myself anymore. Yeah. It's about what God has commanded me to do.
Yeah.
In the end, He always brings me out.
Yeah. And just to add to that, of course, being on this ride on the board for the past 5 years, prayer, and more prayer, with a little bit of prayer sprinkling on top, with prayer on the side, prayer on the bottom, prayer is how you have gotten through all of this, all of the distractions. But it's your mindset too, because as much as you can pray, if you're still in that old mentality of thinking it's about you or taking it personal, God will not be able to work through you. So it's a whole bunch of things, but just for that person that asks.
He doesn't go after little people. He goes after big visions.
No.
So when I begin to have a lot of distractions, I know it just reaffirms how big my purpose is.
Absolutely.
And then the fighter in me stands up and say, you are not gonna win, because I'm daughter of the Most High God. I'm a fighter. I'm a kingdom builder. You are not gonna win.
You're not.
As you said, surround yourself with prayer. And I get into the prayer mode and I look for my support system. Mm-hmm. Important, your support system. Who is surrounding you? Who is your support? Who is you cannot survive without a strong support system. It doesn't have to be huge.
No, not at all. And what's awesome about a support system, especially if it's a support system of faith, you're surrounded by that faith community, is God will put things within them to communicate to you that is exactly what He told you, to confirm. You're like, okay, let's go. It's like a let's go. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting hyped because I'm thinking about.
Funny you said that, because there are some people who are close in my cycle that I don't even tell when I'm dealing with issues, and they'll reach out to me and say, I'm just calling to pray for you. Yeah. I need to pray for you.
Yeah.
But I know God has this.
Yeah. So God is just like, just trust Him on the way. It's like, I promise you, I got you. Just go. Just go. Literally, he has to push, just go. I'm doing this because it's us, trying to back up. Nah, go. You got it. You got it. So I'm going to ask you about 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up. But when we talk about identity, I forgot to mention how, your identity was shaped and formed throughout this, and it's, ever evolving, as you said, evolution. But talk about the identity of the kids and the women and the confidence builder. And just to say real quick, as I was looking through the footage and pictures of some of the kids that have progressed, even through the pictures, you can see another level of confidence, another level of hope, of excitement. Kind of describe that with the kids and the women.
I can tell you when we first opened the school, these were kids who never smiled. Some of them could not look you in the face. But as the years go by, I'm seeing their chests up, they're smiling more. And what really did it for me was when we took our first mission trip to Liberia. We worked with Samaritan's Feet to provide us with shoes to serve those kids. And when we got there, we actually washed their feet. And from a culture standpoint, we were raised in Africa to really serve our others, right? But what we did was the reverse. We were in Liberia as the founders and givers and at the school and playing a reverse role to serve these kids by washing their feet, to reinstill confidence in them that they are bigger than who they think they are. They can be better than us. We are equal. Some of those kids broke down, could not allow us to do that. But that was so touching because it allowed them to open up even more to see that I am somebody, I am sufficient, I am enough. To see the founders of the school come back and wash my feet and serve me, there is a hope for me. The roles can be reversed. That was the message was trying to send them, that these roles can be reversed. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the students, right? I can't wait for you all to watch in September 18 to see some of these kids projecting the life-changing story, who they believe they are going to be because of the work that is happening. That's one of the most fulfilling part. And to hear those women whose lives have been transformed, who are not so confident now, can speak to the situation that first held them back to say, I am enough. I am better. I'm sufficient. I can fend for myself. I can take care of my kids. I can take care of my family because I've been empowered by Doe Memorial Foundation. Big transition. Cannot even measure. Even those staffs that are paid, most of the people in Liberia feel so proud to work for this great organization and giving their best. Completely life-changing story. I could go on and on and on and on. But again, we are blessed to be a blessing.
Yeah. Whew. You know what? I forget about all of the lives and the moving parts, like the staff. That's a whole nother level of empowerment. Although they are teaching the kids, you still empower them to educate the kids, and you send other people to empower them. Thinking of Pamela Manning going over there, all of this stuff, all of this, even the empowerment you gave for other people who want to establish a school or something or a foundation, and it is just massive. And had you ignored that voice and, talked yourself out of it and said what you weren't versus what you were, even when you didn't see it, so much life would have looked different for so many people. But I'm going to go on to the last question, and it is on vision, right? Vision is seeing it before you see it. And while you didn't see everything that happened over the last 10 years, you see it now. And so now that you're able to see it, although you cannot see the next 10 years, I feel that you have more confidence to see it. So if you don't mind sharing whatever it is you want to share, and I'm making it broad for a reason, because you can touch on any part of it, but what do you see the next 10 years from now?
I think God is already laying out the 10 years very clearly. When I begin to reach out to women across Liberia, the first 3 counties, in the next 10 years, I see Doe Foundation across Liberia, across West Africa, empowering hundreds of women, building more schools. I see university. I see a vision that is so big that will give so many people hope who are still sitting on the fence and saying how, when, why. Yes, I see our first university being built very soon.
I see it too.
And I see in 10 years, a couple of our students who would have already graduated from Untitled
Yes.
high school, spread across different countries, the United States, different countries, going to do their undergraduate degree and even the master's and paying it forward to Untitled and wherever society they find themselves in. 10 years, I see a lot. And God is already speaking. I'm just so excited about what he's gonna do. If he did it 10 years ago, I know he's gonna blow our minds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is so much more to cover. I didn't even get through all of the questions, but I think you kind of covered it. But this is just such a good conversation, and it's empowering. It's more than just talking about the foundation or talking about who you are. It's telling a story of hope, of empowerment, of faith, of trusting, of risk taking. Because to follow God's purpose, you're taking the risk, right? You're taking a risk of without him, right? Go ahead.
You speak of risk because those are some of the reasons why we struggle when God calls, right? Yeah. Because I had a lot of risk in mind. I am a professional person who just have a problem with my job, but then God had to remind me, this is not a profit making. You're giving. And I would align the resources. Even your professional career will have to align because I've called you to do this.
Absolutely.
But I had to believe, right? That was risk.
Absolutely. That's a whole other conversation, but absolutely. I think about people where God called out of, their corporate job to do something. And it's like, okay, you're thinking about the finances, the risk about, either way is risk. Are you going to believe him and trust him, or are you going to believe whatever it is that you're afraid of? Either or. We'll probably have to have a part 2 just to talk about fear and risk and overcoming that. Wow. But so next week we have and I say our again, for those who missed it, I'm a part of the board of Doe Memorial Foundation, but every September, the foundation hosts a gala. It's usually in person, but COVID, let me not even blame COVID. Sometimes things that are a tragedy can be a blessing because it changes the way you do things, where it can be more beneficial and profitable for you. So let me stop being negative with COVID and the gala, but it's usually on site. It's now virtual, right? So I want Saya to talk about a little bit what's going to happen on next Saturday.
So it's all about celebration. Next Saturday, we will be celebrating 10 years of major accomplishment, 10 years of giving hope back to so many children, 10 years of blessing women, 10 years of empowering our local staff, 10 years of faith, accomplishment. So we are looking forward to seeing all of you live on Zoom or Facebook. We'll be Facebook Live. We will celebrate. It starts at 6:30. If you have not received the Zoom link, please go onto our website, www.atdoemf.org. We would love to see you. We have so many things to share with you on next Saturday at 6:30. If you want to give and be a part of this and bless the people of Liberia, and we didn't even talk about our scholarship in Charlotte.
Oh yeah, quickly touch on that real quick, please.
You can go out to the website and donate. Again, the website is www.A as in Apple, T as in Tom, D as in David, O as in over, E as in Emmanuel, M as in Mary, F as in Frank, .org. I say that because my son always tells me, Mommy, can you do that? We are really looking forward. It's amazing what God is doing also. Our target is to raise $150,000. We're already 70% there. This is again another testament that God provides. And this is an opportunity for you to be part of this amazing journey.
And real quick, so the theme this year is achieving higher heights, right? And the goal is to have every student sponsored, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for just $300, I'm going to say $300, right? Because $300 in the US can be just a date at a very high-end restaurant. For just $300, you can sponsor a child's entire education for 1 year. And what that child gets is uniform, book bags, lunches, helps to pay the teacher for the entire year. And then you also have the opportunity to connect. I mean, some sponsors want to connect and have like personal connection with these students. You have opportunity to receive the annual report cards. For those of you who sponsored last year, the report cards, the progress report for these students are already being put in the mail to all of you. So don't forget to commit and come true on your current sponsorship. But we have 370 and we're about to go up to 500 just for $300 a child.
Yeah.
At this point, we have about, I would say 40% of the students that are fully sponsored. So 60% are still needing sponsorship. I hope you will consider giving a child that opportunity.
And in addition to that, the other programs that needs funding as well. The gala, primarily, of course, you're trying to raise money for the academy, for the school, but it's for all the programs. So as she alluded to, which we didn't have time to go into, there's a local scholarship program. So God has called her to bless students on the continent and locally, right? The Women's Empowerment Program, they need funding. The medical program needs funding, and just everything else and all the other opportunities. But like she said, go on the website. I'm not going to spell it out. It's www.atdoemf.org. Also follow them on Instagram, same acronym, ATDOEMF with the @ symbol. And then on Facebook, Doe Memorial Foundation. And you can also follow Saya Sio. She puts out pretty cool things and content in addition to as it relates to the school as well. But I just thank you for this time. Saya, I'm sorry, let me backtrack real quick. Let people know how they can give donations. Of course, go to the website, but kind of give them a little bit more guidance on that.
There are multiple ways to give. You can give by Zelle, info@atdoemf.org. You just use the foundation email, info@atdoemf.org. You can Cash App, $ATDOE1, or on the website, again, www.atdoemf.org. 3 easy ways to give, or even on Facebook. The foundation has a Facebook page, right? Doe Memorial Foundation. You click on the foundation, you can donate right on the foundation.
Repeat that Zelle again.
info@atdoemf.org.
Okay, got it. And so what I'm going to do after the Zoom call, I'm going to tag it into the comments for those so they can have that information. But again, Saya, real quick, forgot to mention there's also a YouTube page. That's very important because there's a lot of good content on there on the YouTube. I think the YouTube is ATDOE, that's ATDOE Memorial Foundation. I'll put that out there as well, but a lot of great content, and even last year's gala to see the kids because they actually performed. But let me wrap this up because we're going to end up going over 90 minutes. But Saya, thank you so much for allowing me to pull you from the group and isolate you where the light is shining on your face, because I know normally you don't like that that isolated attention, but I think you should do more of it because you tell a story, you paint a picture. Not saying that, you know, the board and everyone else does not do that, but it's just nice to hear it painted from a different perspective and more so from a personal perspective. But thank you so much for this opportunity to sit down and speak with you. And before I close out, is there any last closing remarks that you have that you would like to share?
I want to first thank you, Jeanette, for the opportunity for forcing me to get out of my comfort zone.
I didn't force you, but kind of, yeah.
It's always a blessing connecting with you. For those of you who are watching, I just want to re-echo. Everybody has a purpose. It could be big, small. Do not underestimate. God has called each and every one of us to do something great.
Yes.
And if you're seeking what that is, listen. And if you need support, there's a lot of resources out there.
Yeah.
But don't miss out on what you're called to do.
Yeah.
As Jeanette said, I put a lot of content out on my Facebook page and Doe Foundation. I hope you will follow the foundation and my personal page to get more information about Doe Foundation. And personally, I'm inviting you again on Saturday at 6:30, next Saturday, September 18 at 6:30, to join us to celebrate 10 years of success.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday, September 18 at 6:30.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, everyone. And also, you know, to continue to see great Facebook Live footage, follow A Socialite Production. We will have another Facebook Live soon, but you guys have a great night. Before I let you go, Saya, we have to take a selfie. We did not do that prior. You guys, y'all can stay on and watch us take a selfie, or you can leave, but we got to get this done. So let me make sure our hair, you good? You ready? All right. 1, 2, one more. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks again, Saya.